Well, we've had an introduction to using jQuery, so let's do a more extensive example that shows us how we can use various jQuery selectors to manipulate HTML. All right, because one of the things we've been doing so far is, well, we did a really simple thing to make some stuff appear and disappear, but you can actually change the value of HTML content in JavaScript using jQuery if you want to. So you're not just looking at HTML elements, but you're actually changing them in the document object model. All right, so to get started, let's create a college HTML page. Now, this college HTML page is going to have a list of A-list and B-list colleges, kind of a snarky list. And what I want to do is to get started, rather than typing all that stuff that we had to have at the beginning of our Hello World jQuery example, let's just copy and paste that to save a little bit of effort. All right, so I'm going to grab everything up to body, copy that, and paste that into my college HTML. And we'll call this pick. We'll call it the college picker. Okay. So we're going to change the JavaScript file to college.js instead of helloworld.js. All right. It's really important that we include all of these, all of the CSS and this JavaScript to get the UI stuff right, and of course to get all the jQuery processing right. All right, so let's write a little bit of HTML here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an unordered list. Well, let's do this first. I'll say this is my A-list colleges. And we'll create an unordered list. We'll give it a class name of A-list. And the schools on my A-list are Stonehill, of course. And I'm going to put some schools that I went to. WPI, of course. And we'll put another school, MIT. I can go to MIT, but I want that on this list too because they're from around here. And we'll close our unordered list here. All right, and now we'll also have a B list. These are our B list colleges. Second choices. Okay, unordered list. We're going to give this a class of B list so we can identify them separately. Whoops. That's an unordered list. And we'll say Harvard. Yale, and Duke. We like to stay in the Massachusetts area for our A-list schools. And I just put Harvard in here because I thought it would be funny to put that in the B list. Okay, so let's close our body. And we'll close the HTML. Okay, so this represents our A list and B list of colleges. Now, let's just save this and take a look at it. Okay, cool. So A list B-list. We see up here it says college picker. There's our title. So it's all looking good. Now, what I would like to do is, well, first I'd like to answer this question. Do you see the document object model here? Do you see it? So if I were to go back to the HTML that we were just working on, our document object model would be, we have an HTML. Well, I guess we have a head and an HTML document. Under that, we've got a body. Under that, we've got a paragraph, which is the A list, an unordered list, which under the unordered list, we have a few LIs. Trying to figure out a way to group this so that it makes sense. So maybe think about it as a list. We've got a list containing head and HTML. Under HTML, we have a list containing just the body. Under the body, we have a paragraph and an unordered list. And then that unordered list has its own list, which is 3 LIs for Stonehill, WPI, and MIT. Then we have another paragraph followed by another unordered list, which has 3 LIs, Harvard, Yale, and Duke. And then we are pretty much done. So, let's see here. I actually think this HTML doesn't belong there. It goes up here. This works a little better. Yeah. Okay. So that means this. That head was bugging me. It's not supposed to be there. It should be here. Okay. Cool. All right. So that's the structure of the document. So HTML is the root. We have a head and body as 2 branches. Nothing much under head, I guess. I guess we could do it that way. Yeah, we could do this a little better. Under head, we have the list title, script, link, script, and script. And then under body, we have these elements. And then this closes the body one. This closes the branch of head and body under HTML. And then we're good. Okay, much better. So I didn't draw it out because I'm not using my tablet at the moment, but you could just see that there's a hierarchy. HTML, or a tree. HTML is at the root. We have 2 branches, head and body. And then underneath head, we've got a bunch of branches, title, script, link, script, script. And then under body, we have a bunch of branches as well, a paragraph, an unordered list with a bunch of list items, another paragraph, an unordered list with a bunch of list items under it. So that hierarchy is one way that we can view the document object model. And we can manipulate stuff through that hierarchy. Another way, though, an easier way that jQuery provides is there's mechanisms of querying the document object model. We could use the hierarchy to query it, or we could use other mechanisms. So the cleanest way to do this is to think about using selectors, all right? Now, you know how to use CSS selectors, and jQuery supports the idea of CSS selectors for selecting different elements in a document object model to manipulate. So let's come up with a purpose, and then we will we'll do something interesting. Okay, so what if we wanted to do, let's see, what if we wanted to do this? What if we wanted to add a link to well, okay, how about this? What if we want to put all of the names of the schools, make them all uppercase? All right. So if you're a list item, we would like to make you an uppercase um, item. So let's see if we can figure out how to do that. I'm kind of off script a little bit because I can see I've got some cool things to show you, but it involves fairly advanced selectors, and I'd like to start out simple first. All right. So let's get rid of this. And I've stated my goal. What I'd like to do is I'd like to make anything that's in lowercase, we're just going to put them all the schools in uppercase first. All right. So let's do this. Let's get into college.js. And what college.js has to do first is do a document.ready with an anonymous function. Okay, so this says, when the document's ready, I want this anonymous function to execute. And the anonymous function that I'd like to have execute first is I'd like to be able to get access to all of the colleges. All right. So how do I get access to all of the colleges? Well, if I say var colleges equals dollar and dollar what? Now remember, I told you that the way jQuery works is pretty much any CSS selector you can think of, you can query and use it to get access to elements in the document object model. Now, there's a ton of different CSS selectors. There's a way to get CSS selectors via class. So in this example, if I said if I did .alist, that would give me access to all of the class. It would give me access to the unordered list element that has the class alist. All right. If I wanted to do something by ID, well, I don't have anything that's an ID, but let's say I did. Let's say I used ID instead of class for the unordered list. I could say a list. So that would give me access to this unordered element over here if it used the ID equals classes instead of class. Okay. Another way is I can just straight off give the name of an element that I want to work with. So if I say list item, that's going to give me access to every list item element that exists in the HTML document. So that's going to give me access to all of the list item elements. So I'd like to do that right now. And then I think I just want to iterate over them and print them out. All right. So let's do a for loop. For var I equals 0, I is less than colleges dot size I plus plus. Now I've gone off script a little bit, so I'm not exactly sure if colleges dot size is the right thing to do here, but I think it's going to be something close to that. And let's just do a console.log of colleges just to see colleges sub I. Let's just see if we can get that to print out. And we'll see where we end up with this. All right, so file, save. So we have colleges.js, and we've got college.js and college.html. And let's go to the HTML page that we were using to display the colleges. Let's bring the console. That's our canary in the coal mine that lets us know how things are going. So file, more tools, developer tools. There's my console, and I'm going to do a refresh. And let's see if, oops, yep, looks like I've got Mm, okay. All right, so let's do some experiments right here from the console. I think I have most of this loaded, so I should just be able to try it right here, and we'll figure out what the right way. Maybe it's dot length. I don't know. So I'm going to say var colleges equals um, dollar. I think the document's loaded, so I can get away with this. Dollar li. Okay. Now I'm going to say colleges dot, yeah, sweet. Oh, it's colleges dot length. And it's already showing me that colleges dot length has a value of 6, which makes a lot of sense because Stonehill, WPI, MIT, Harvard, Yale, Duke, those are all, those 6 are the items that I want. Okay, so let's go back to my code then, and then change this from colleges dot size to colleges dot length. Okay, and save this. Refresh, and let's see what happens. Hey, there we go. All right, so the list items, Stonehill, WPI, MIT, Harvard, Yale, Duke, those are all different items in the list. Now, I want to change those items from uppercase, whatever case they are, to uppercase. So let's say colleges slash 0, all right? Colleges slash 0, or colleges bracket 0, that's Stonehill. We'll just do a console log of that. Log. Oops. Right. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go up and print that. Okay, so that's Stonehill. All right, so I had to redefine colleges because once I exited the event handler, that variable colleges didn't exist anymore, so I just defined it in the console. So now I have access to Stonehill. Now I want to change that to uppercase Stonehill. Maybe lowercase. Let's do lowercase because I think lowercase is cooler. All right, so let's make it lowercase. So how would I do that? Well, let's get colleges 0. So now I have access to the list item colleges.0. But the thing to remember is that is an element, that is an HTML element that has a lot of cool properties to it. The thing that I want to get access to in that element though is you can see like there's event handlers here and there's information about whether this element is draggable. We could make it hidden. But we have this thing called inner text. Oh, look, that inner text has the value of Stonehill. Huh. Let's see if value, there's a lot of ways of getting access to it. What does value have? Oops. Somehow I got all the way to the top there. Let's go back up to the top here. What is value? It's 0. Okay. That's not what I want. Let's see. Value of. Yeah, that's some object information. Okay, we saw it already. So inner text. So the inner text has the value of Stonehill. And that makes sense, right? We have a list element. If we ask for that list element and say, hey, list element, what's your inner text? It's Stonehill. Let's see if we can do lower to, oh, I saw it there, to lower case. All right. And if I say console.log, and press enter. Whoops. There we go. So you can see it took the inner text, which was Stonehill, and converted to the lowercase, and the result is Stonehill. Cool. So now if I go back to this, and I say console log dot colleges sub I inner text dot to lowercase, I now am going to have this really cool thing that will print out the colleges in lowercase. So let's try running it. Wow, cool. So Stonehill, WPI, MIT, Harvard, Yale, Duke. Now those are in lowercase. The thing is, they're in lowercase and they're in the console. The user wouldn't see this stuff, right? They're going to see the output of the HTML rendered by the web browser. So we've got to change, I'd like to change the output in the HTML. So how to do that? Well, let's think about this for a second. Actually, I'd like you to think about it for a second. How could I change line 6 so that the output that appears here has the colleges displaying themselves in lowercase? All right, how could I do that? So I don't want to see it in the console, I want to see it on the HTML page. So hit pause for a second and see if you can think about how you might do that. Okay, we're back. So basically what we want to do here is we need to change the inner text for each of these list elements. So if I say colleges sub I dot inner text equals colleges sub I dot inner text to lowercase, that will change the inner text for all of the HTML list elements. All right, so let's save this and refresh. Whoops, made a little error there. Let's fix that error. An extra paren there. Save this and refresh. Wow, that's awesome. So now everything is in lowercase. I'd like to improve this a little bit. It would be really cool if, in addition to the lists of A-list and B-list colleges, that what you could do is click on any one of the colleges and go to that college's webpage. So if you click on Stonehill, it'll go to www.stonehill.edu. If you click on WPI, it'll go to www.wpi.edu, etc. So what we could do then to make that happen is we could alter the HTML even more. All right, let's see if we can get to this. So right now we're making the inner text, setting that equal to lowercase. But what if we modify this so that in addition to the college being in lowercase, we've got a reference or a link to the college website. So basically every college will become a link. So how could we do that? Well, I'm going to do this just to make things a little simpler. I'm going to change this to call that variable C. All right, so C now can enter the lowercase version of the college. Now, what I would like to do is have something called the link. See if I can, I think I can do that. Sure. I don't think link is a reserved word. So the link is going to be a string that is the href. So I'm going to say href, that creates the link. Href equals, see, I'm going to have this That's fine. We can do it this way. www. Well, let's do this first, stonehill.edu. It's kind of snarky. So we're going to set up so that no matter what you do, you always go to the Stonehill website. Okay, so that's the link. Now, the name of the school should appear in the link. So I'm going to say plus, and the name of the school. What is the name of the school? That's C, right? C is the inner text of the college, which would be the college name, which we converted lowercase. So that's C. And then we're going to close the link as well. Now you'll notice I had to use single quotes and double quotes here to make this work. So the single quotes are saying, hey, this is a string, and you can use single quotes or double quotes to start a string, but I have something embedded in the string that has to be quoted. So I either have to use single quotes on the outside and then double quotes on the inside for the href, and then close single quotes to indicate that I'm done with the string, or I use double quotes on the outside and single quotes on the inside. Either way will work. Okay, so now I've got the link created. So that's the link that will appear on each list item. So it'll be a link to stonehill.edu. I guess I should probably put HTTP here. Then the name of the school, which will be Stonehill, WPI, MIT, Harvard, Yale, or Duke. And then I close the link. All right, so that's what the inner HTML for each list item. All right, now I need to make sure that that gets saved back in the inner text for the college. So I'm going to say colleges sub I dot inner text equals link. All right, so hopefully that makes sense to you. So we grab the inner text of the list item, which will be Stonehill, WPI, etc. We convert it to lowercase because that's just cool. Then we create a link, and the link consists of an href that will send everyone that clicks on any link to stonehill.edu's website. The C represents the lowercase version of the school, that is the list item. So we build that string, and then we save that link string in college's inner text. So let's save this and see if it works. Refresh. Ooh, that's kind of cool. So we have the link appearing, but it's not actually being interpreted as a list item. Let's take a look at what it looks like when we view page source. That's pretty cool too, right? This is the original page source. It doesn't actually show us the HTML as it is. Okay. All right, so we've got a little bit of a problem here. Let's go back and take a look at this. So what is the problem? I think the problem is that we're telling the browser that the inner text, which is considered text, is this HTML here, and I don't think it's interpreting that as a link. So we have to figure out a way to get it to interpret as a link. Well, let me think about this. So I think what we want to do is we want to set that list item and have that list item have a child below it that is an element. And I am not exactly sure how to do that. So let's see. Oh, we got a little bit of a problem here. And looking at our code, the problem is that that link isn't really it's not really considered HTML, it's considered the inner text. So somehow we have to get this link here to appear as a legitimate link inside of the HTML document. All right, so I did a little bit of Googling. I paused the record, did a little bit of Googling and a little bit of thinking, and I think I have something that is going to work. All right, so let's talk about how we're going to approach this. I think what I'd like to do is try to do this first, playing around on the console to see if I can get it right, and then we'll get it to work. You can see already I've got this link that showed up, so that's indicating that I've figured something out. So we're going to get something to work like that. So first, I think I want to refresh the page to get rid of that and deal with the current state that I'm in. All right, now, how do we get this to work? Well, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get those list of colleges again. Yeah. All right. Now, I want to do a console.log of colleges 0 inner text. 2 lowercase, sure, why not? Oh, yeah, that's not what the inner text should be. So let's just reset that to correct it. So colleges sub 0 dot inner text equals, let's do Stonehill in lowercase. Cool, and you can see it changed up at the top there. All right, now I want it to be a link, but the reality is that that link is really, it's really a child element of the list item. The ahref is supposed to be a child element of the list item. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to create the A element. It's an element, so there's a way to do that. So I'm going to create one. I'm going to say var A, that's my link element, is equal to document.create element A. Oops. Let's try that again. Yeah, is equal to document.create element A. I already typed it, so it knows, it did an autocomplete for me. Okay, so now I have an element that is a link element. You can say document.create element P or document.create element LI. You just give it the name of the element, and I said A, so A is a link element. Now I have a pure link element, but it doesn't have an href in it yet. So I need to set the href for the element A. And so the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to say var href equals document.create attribute. Oh no, document dot, I think there's a better way to do this. Not create attribute, there's a set attribute option, so we're going to try that. Oops, no, we're going to do this. We're going to say a dot set attribute. All right. Now, every element in HTML has a set of attributes that you can set. And actually, the attributes you can set are pretty arbitrary. You can make up attributes if you want. However, some of the attributes have true meaning to the browser. So if you have an A element, a link element, and you set the href attribute, it knows that that is the place that you should go if you click on the link that's created by the link element, the A element. Okay, so I just set href. So now if I say A dot attributes Well, first of all, we can say a dot has attributes. That should return failed to execute has a 0. Let's do a dot. That should have returned true, I think. A dot has, or a dot attributes. Let's do that. A dot attributes. Okay, so it says that there is an attribute. There is a map of attributes. Let's take a look. And in here, there is something that is an href. And if we explore the href a little bit, we can see that the name of the attribute is href and the value is stonehill.edu. Okay, cool. So now we have this element A. It has the href set to stonehill.edu. And now what we can do is we can say, let's try to set that first element in the A list, the Stonehill element, to this true link that goes to stonehill.edu. Okay, so if we do that, what's going to happen? Let's see. So colleges dot colleges sub I, colleges sub 0 dot. Now, what we'd like to do is we'd like to append a child to colleges sub 0. So we want to make that link, that href, that link with the href in it, a child of this first list item in Stonehill. So we're going to do append child A. That's the link that we set up. And the attribute of the link is the href to stonehill.edu. All right, so I'm going to do that. Boom. Okay, that's cool. What's interesting though is that the link itself didn't actually appear, and that makes a lot of sense. It's there though. You can see like let's do a view of the page source. Or actually, I think we can view the elements this way. So go here, and you can see that the first list item, pretty cool. It has Stonehill as the inner text, but then it also has the href, but you really can't click on the href because there's no link that's appearing here. So we want between this A and the close A, we want the text of Stonehill. So we want this text for Stonehill to go right here. So we've got a little bit of an error because the inner text should be the inner text for the A element and not for the LI element. So if I go back to the console and I say A dot inner text equals Stonehill. Now we're talking. So take a look at that. There's my Stonehill link. Now I actually have two Stonehills. The first Stonehill is the inner text for the list element, the list item, and the second Stonehill is the inner text for my link. So I need to say colleges sub 0 dot inner text equals nothing. That seemed to get rid of my That seemed to get rid of my anchor. That's weird. Do that. Oh, that didn't work. Huh. All right, looks like we got another thing to figure out here. Hmm. Because I don't want that inner text, but I do want the link. It's really weird. Okay, I'm going to set it back to that. And let's just take a look at the HTML now. It seems to have deleted our A, so let's do this. I'm going to re-establish our append child. There we go. So it looks like when you set the inner text to blank, it wiped out all of the children as well. So we'll have to remember that when we set this up. So we'll set the inner text to blank first, then we'll do the append child second. And of course, we have to do a lot of setup for the append child here. So let's think about the order that we're going to do things. Number one, we're going to create our link element, our A. We're going to do the set attribute of A to set the href. We'll set the inner text to blank, and then we'll do the append child, and we should be good. All right, so let's go to our code. So this seems so cool, but not quite right. We're going to say var A equals document dot create element A. Then we're going to say A dot set attribute. And we're going to set the attribute href and set that to http www.stonehill.edu. And we're going to set the inner text for the college to blank. And then we're going to do colleges by dot append child of A. Almost there. One thing I forgot to do is say A dot inner text equals C. Okay, so let's just review what we've done here. So we figured a lot out using the console. So C is equal to the lowercase version of the college that appeared in the original list. A is a link element that we created, and we set its href to stonehill.edu. We set the inner text of this link element to the name of the college, that's C in lowercase. We set the inner text of the li link for colleges to blank, and then we append the child of A. Cool. So let's save that and do a refresh and see what happens. Huh, amazing. So Stonehill, WPI, MIT, Harvard, Yale, Duke. Let's go to Harvard, shall we? Oh, when we go to Harvard, it takes us to MIT. Huh. Oh, sorry, it takes us to Stonehill. Let's go to MIT, shall we? All right, when we go to MIT, it takes us to Stonehill. All right, this is a little snarky. Can we improve this? Well, yes, we can. What we can do is we can go to the code here, and instead of having this set attribute which forces it to be stonehill.edu, we can actually change the attribute to be the name of the school. The school is right here. That's what C is. So maybe what we can do is say www plus C plus .edu. So now, if C is Stonehill, it'll go to stonehill.edu. If it's WPI, it'll go to wpi.edu. If it's Harvard, it'll go to harvard.edu. All right, let's save it. And let's refresh this again. Hey, this is cool. Let's try going to my old undergrad school, WPI. Great place. Awesome. That takes us to WPI. Looks like WPI has a few little weird errors. So someone should fix WPI's website, but it did take us to WPI, which is great. This code is, I'm hoping, fairly straightforward for you, but it turns out that there is a remarkably brief way that you can use jQuery to kind of achieve the same behavior. And so I'd like to show you how that works. So first I've got the answer right here, but I'm gonna clear this out so we can do it together. So first of all, jQuery has a lot of different ways to go after elements in an HTML document. Those are called jQuery selectors. And so one of my favorite websites for stuff that you're doing with HTML, CSS, or JavaScript is the w3schools.com website. And here we have a web page that has a list of jQuery selectors. So these are selectors that are very similar to the CSS selectors, and I already talked about them, in general, but now you've got really specific details. Most of these selectors work exactly the way that CSS does, but there are some special and super cool ones. So I wanted to show you the one that I'd like to use. So there's this parent greater than child selector. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to select specific elements, child elements of a parent. So this is saying I only want the paragraph elements for any direct child of a div. So those will be paragraphs that immediately appear under a div or at the same level as child elements under a div. So I'd like to do something really similar with the college picker. What I'd like to do is I'd like to collect up all of, let's try that again. I want to collect all of the anchors, or links that are below list items. So child links of list items. There might be other links in this document. In this case, there aren't, but I want to be very specific. I'm only interested in the child links, all right? So using the jQuery selector, I can select those. Now, there should be 6 because I have 6 college names there. And now if I say the A's dot length, I get 6. If I say the A's sub 0, I'm going to get the first one. And if I say dot inner HTML, I'm going to get Stonehill because Stonehill is the inner HTML of this link. I can prove that by taking a look at my A list schools, the first list item, and I can see there's my href, and there's Stonehill, which is the inner HTML of my A element. All right, cool. So we have this really terse way of grabbing things. Now, another thing that's amazing is I can do operations on these very easily. And in fact, using this selector, I can say I want to do a particular operation on all the attributes of all specific attributes of a link element. All right, and so if I say li greater than a, now I have all the a's that are under any list item. And if I say dot attribute, Now I can target a specific attribute. So I'm going to say I want to set the href attributes of all links under list items to http colon stonehill.edu. We'll make it www. So I'm being mean again. I'm basically saying any one of these links that you click on is going to send you back to Stonehill. All right, boom. Now, if I take my cursor here and I bring it over Stonehill, you'll see the link stonehill.edu. It's going to show up right there. So look down here. So that says, oh, we're going to stonehill.edu. We're going to stonehill.edu. Pretty much any one of these links, stonehill.edu. So all of the hrefs have been changed to stonehill.edu. That's the first one. Let's look at WPIs. Oh, it's so mean. WPI is going to go stonehill.edu. Okay, cool. So now, what if I wanted to set things up so that, so first of all, just take a look at this. In a single line, right, using jQuery, I'm able to set that href. And so if we go over here to the code, there's a lot more code in here that's getting executed to set the attribute and set the inner text and all that junk. So we can change that, make it just a little bit simpler using this jQuery attribute thing. So what if I wanted to change it back? What if I wanted to say, okay, I don't want to change the attribute to be stonehill.edu. I'd actually like it to be the name of the school. Well, I can do that as well. If I say $li, oops, greater than a dot attribute href, and then I can pass in a function instead, an anonymous function. And the anonymous function takes two arguments, an index and a value. And let me explain how this works. The index is the index of the collection that's returned by this LIA greater than A. The LI greater than A is going to return a collection of all the links, the 6 links that are here. So this index, this function will get executed once for each of the links that appear up here. All right. So each time we execute one of those links, this function is going to get executed. So the index will be 0, then it'll be 1, then it'll be 2, all the way up to 5. The value is the value, the current value of the href. Well, the current value of the href is this, http stonehill.edu, because we were very mean, we just set that up. But I can change it. So what if I do this? I say, okay, what I like to do is I want to return a new value for this attribute. And the new value is going to be http colon www.stonehill, oops, www dot plus this. So this is the value of the link that this function is operating on. All right, so this dot inner text plus .edu. I'm not 100% sure this is going to work. I have a way to make it work, but I don't have it. I want to see this. Maybe this will work. Okay, that closes the attribute and semicolon. That seemed to work actually. So this refers to the link that this $ grabbed. And let's see, that's Stonehill. Yep, that's WPI, that's MIT. Perfect. All right. So now we have an incredibly short way using jQuery to go after attributes. Now the caveat for this is that if we were to go back to this function or the code that we wrote over here, can we take advantage of that in this code? Well, we need a way to create that list item attribute. In this function. So how could we do that? Because that's one thing we have to do to make this work. It doesn't work if that list item attribute doesn't exist. Looking through my notes to see if I've got a clever way of doing this. No. Let's see. Because everything else would work out great. I mean, I could get rid of this whole loop, which would be pretty sweet. Hang on, I'll be right back. We've already seen that it's fairly easy to use jQuery to go after setting the attributes on an element. And we use that to set the href attributes for the link element. But is there a way to use jQuery to, I don't know, clean up all this code or make this tighter? I mean, it seemed like we were able to do basically in one line, one single line, we were able to affect all of the link attributes. So let's do this. Let's get rid of all of this. All right, and go back to a really back to our kind of original situation and see if we can take advantage of jQuery's some of jQuery's basic collection manipulation tools to achieve the same effect without all of that code. All right, I just saved that. Just make sure I saved it. Save. All right, now let's refresh this. So this is kind of where we started at the beginning of the exploration of dealing with this college picker. All right, so let's go back to this jQuery, or back to the JavaScript, and I'm going to write a jQuery method that goes after the li elements. All right, that'll get me all the li elements in the HTML document. Now, there's a jQuery method called each. So if I say $li each, and I pass in an anonymous function, and it takes index as an argument. That's an index that tells me which item in the collection of li elements I'm at. So if I'm at the first element, index will be 0. If I'm at the second element, which would be WPI, index will be 1. All right, so now I'm going to write the code to make this work. Now the code to make this work, let's see. Okay, so the code to make this function work. If I say this, that will get me access to the actual list item that the each is iterating over. So the first this would be Stonehill. The second time that each method gets called, it'll be WPI, then MIT, etc. Okay. Now, if I say this dot append child, if you remember, append child will add a new element to the current element and make that element a child of the current element. And what I want to do is I want these all to be links to their respective websites. All right, so I'm going to do an append child, and I'm going to create using document.create element. I'm going to create an A node, all right, a link node. And that's pretty much it for right now. All right, so this is pretty cool. So for every list item, I'm going to execute this anonymous function, and I'm going to append the A element to that item. All right, cool. So let's save this and see if we can get it to execute. All right, no errors. Let's take a look at the elements here. Here is the first element, Stonehill, and there's the text Stonehill, and here is the link element, and of course there's nothing in there because we haven't set anything yet. We just got things set up. So let's go back here and take a look at our code. Well, maybe I could be a little bit smarter. I could set the inner text for the element. Maybe I can go after, let's do this. That gives me access to the inner, that gives me access to all of the links. Now, what if I were to get the parent? Well, if I did this, and I said href, and I created a function that took in the index and the value, and then that anonymous function has some code in here. So if I say this, that will give me access to the A element. But I'd like to set the inner text of the A element equal to this dot, I need to figure out a way to get the parent element. From child. Okay, how do we do that? Oh, of course, there's a parent element property. Okay, so we can get the parent element. Okay, perfect. So what we'll try to do here is we'll try to say this dot parent element dot inner text. Okay. So what we're saying is for every A, change the attribute of the inner text of the parent element, of the child element. Yeah, this isn't right. It'll probably work, but it's not, I don't think this is the right way to do it because we already created the child here. So why don't we just say, this dot children sub 0, because that's going to be the only child, dot inner text equals this dot inner text. To lower case. I think it was 2 lowercase. I think it was 2 lowercase. Okay. All right. Before we start doing all this fancy stuff here, let's see if that works. Perfect, except the problem is we've got both the uppercase letter and the lowercase letter, or uppercase text and lowercase text. So we'll say this dot inner text equals null. Let's do that instead. I don't know that this is much less complicated. Let's try that now. Whoops. Got to do that. We realized we have to do that before before we append the child there. Okay, let's try that. There we go. And we just got to get that to lowercase. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So, I don't know, I kind of like, let's do this. I think that's clearer than line 8. All right, I'm liking this much better. So we're going to save the text for the college, reset the inner text of the list item to blank. Then we're going to create our link, set the inner text of our link to C, the text for the college, which we put in lowercase. And then we're going to append that link to here. Now we can also create that attribute, right? So maybe we should do that too before we do this append. So we'll say a dot, what was it, set attribute? I think it was set attribute, href. And we're going to set that href to http://www.stonehill.edu. We don't want to do Stonehill, we want to do the C. can't really do this in a single line because of the complication of setting that attribute. And that looks pretty good. All right, so let's do a file save. Okay, and now we'll do reset here. Perfect. So now Stonehill's address is right, MIT's address is right, Harvard's address is right, and life is good. So we've just used another example of a mechanism which allows us to iterate each over all the elements in a collection that are returned by using a jQuery selector. And this got a little complicated because we wanted to do some manipulation. We wanted to set the inner text of list item to blank. We wanted to add a link and set the inner text of the link. And we wanted to set an href attribute as well. So there you go.